Hi there, and welcome to the fourth video in this series. So today we're talking about different image-to-image workflows. First, we'll look at the basics and how changing the denoising strength influences our resulting image. Then we'll look at how we can modify existing pieces of architecture using a sketch, different control net modes, and the image-to-image processing. And finally, we will create different rendered scenes with context from an Arctic massing model. So let's get started. So we'll just click on this tab here, go down to image, and then we have the option to upload a new image. So I'm going to start with this image of the law building at the University of Michigan. And let's go through some of these parameters. So I'm going to leave it at just resize, no soften painting. I'm going to switch this to Keras. I'll turn the sampling steps down to 5 just so we can get some really quick generations. I'll match the aspect ratio to that of my input image. Turn the batch size up to 4. I'll reduce the CFG scale a bit. And the new parameter that we have here is the denoising strength. So with the denoising strength of 0, the initial noise that the diffusion process will start with will look exactly like this image. There will be no noise added to this, and the resulting image that we get from our generation will look exactly like this. Now, the higher we make this denoising strength, the closer it is to 1, the more noise will be added to this. The more random this image will become, and the less it will resemble this initial input. And that noisiness will be the jumping off point for the diffusion process. So if I want to produce things that bear closer resemblance to this, I will move this slider closer to 0. If I want to go off into a space that maybe more closely follows what my prompt says or some other factor, I'll turn up the denoising strength closer to 1. Let's leave the seed random, and let's just show what this denoising strength does. I'll enter a very basic prompt. And we have the architecture, exterior. Let's generate that. Okay, so we've got these generations, and they look vastly different from our input image. However, they do have a pretty symmetrical composition, framed by trees on both sides, and they are following our prompt. So let's move this down. Let's move it down to 0.8 and see what we get. I just decreased the denoising strength to 0.8. So it should look a little bit closer to the input image and retain more of those characteristics. Okay, so it's still not really resembling our image so much, so let's go down to 0.5 and see what this result is. And now you can see we're going to get a much closer resemblance to the input image. However, everything will be rendered by the checkpoint model. So it will look like it's AI generated. It won't retain that photo realistic look so much anymore, and it will look like a rendering. Like an AI rendering. Okay, now the result really bears a lot of resemblance to our input image. And if we keep going lower with this denoising strength, we'll just get closer and closer to that original image. So let's move on to another image-to-image workflow, specifically inpainting. We used inpainting in the previous tutorial with text-to-image, but I just want to touch on the image-to-image inpainting feature and show you how to use it. I will mention that up to this point, all of the parameters that we are modifying in all of these steps in image-to-image, we've dealt with them all before. You've seen them in the previous tutorials, and so at this point you should feel free to go through these tabs. I'm not going to cover each one of them, but I will cover the inpainting one here. So, what I want to do is take that existing photo of the University of Michigan Law Library, and I want to imagine there's some kind of addition to the top of it. I want to add something on top. So I'm going to find, okay, first of all, what I've done is I've gone into Photoshop here, and using the brush tool, I've created this sketch of kind of a steel structure sitting on top of the law building. So I have saved this overlay image, and I've saved this control net image, this sketch with the white background. And so in this in paint, I'm going to add the overlay, and I'm going to leave the mask blur low, in paint masked, original, only mask, padding pixels, leave this the same, change this to Karas. I'm going to move this down to 10 so we get a quick production, 960 by 540 to match our aspect ratio, go up to 4 on the batch. CFG scale, I'm going to lower it. Denoising strength, I'm going to go really high. Let's go to 0.9. And then I'm going to draw on my mask here. Just overlay this. Try to be straight with my brush tool here, but it's a little bit challenging. Increase the size of the brush, just fill this in. Okay. Okay, that looks good. So there's my in-painting done. All of my parameters look right. And then I'm going to add that canny edge map. Canny edge image. My sketch image here. And that's what I want to add. Check canny, preview. And I will make my prompt more important. And so I've already tried this image once, and I had a very simplistic prompt. So what I'm going to do is ask, I'm going to use DeepSeek this time, another AI agent, to help me improve my prompt for stable diffusion so that I get a better result with better lighting and texture. So here's the prompt that I get. Let's try this prompt. Modernist architecture expansion, pristine white geometric forms, delicate steel and glass structure, ethereal translucent fabric draping elegantly over openings, and on and on and on. Soft glowing light, volumetric light rays. Sounds great. Sounds amazing. And let's try it. So let's check out some of these results. It looks like we've got a nice addition to the building. Pretty cool. And see how the rest of the photo stayed the same. Nice. So I really, I don't know if any of these are really doing it for me. So I'm gonna leave the CFG scale the same, but maybe modify the prompt a little bit to try to get a more curtain result. So I'm just trying to modify the prompt to bring out more of like the fabric in the structure and make it more like a tent. This one is trying to be a little bit too much of a building. So let's see what this looks like if we do like this. And, you know, let's try another checkpoint model. Let's try realistic vision. So here are my results. I actually reran it a couple of times and ran this iteration with architecture real mix as my checkpoint model, and I really do, I like these results quite a bit. So let's try to move this image. Let's choose which one we like here. Let's go with this one. So if I choose this palette here, I can move this image that we just generated over to the In Painting tab. And then if it goes over, let's close that. Move it over. There it is. Okay, so that's the generation that we just made. And so let's just try to modify this again. See if we can change the color of these curtains and get an image with a slightly different quality. Okay, so I've still got the control net on and my denoising strength. I'm going to lower it a little bit, and I'm going to modify this so that I have a yellow fabric. Soft yellow fabric, Vaseline content like canopy, pristine, soft yellow, silver, luminous yellow, luminous, let's call them silver steel support, soft diffuse, ultra smooth matte finishes. Okay, and let's try it. Okay, so not much of a difference there. We got maybe a little bit of a yellow glow. So let's try to increase the CFG scale a bit. Let's go up to 5. And our prompt is more important. Looks good. Let's try that. Okay, so getting more of a yellow color, but it's not quite the yellow that I would like to see here. And I think that's because of the architecture real mix checkpoint model. I think it's predisposed to making things look kind of maybe a less saturated, more grayish color. So let's try the architecture exterior checkpoint. Oh, I like this a lot more. Okay, it's getting stronger. Yeah, okay. That looks great. So let's remove this soft and see if we can get a little bit stronger yellow color. Nice. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. Great. I really like this. It's a bit strange how it's curving these steel elements and making it more of a curved roof. This one is really great, how that fabric is draping. Let's try the realistic vision model. And here the yellow is a lot stronger. Definitely draping quite a bit. So interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure if I love any of these. Let's switch back to the architecture exterior model. So now what I'm going to do is I've switched my checkpoint model to Juggernaut XL. And because I'm switching to the XL model, I have a couple of LoRAs trained in XL. If you want to see more about LoRAs, go ahead and watch that tutorial. It's on my channel. But I'm going to switch to the Swiss render LoRA, which is just only compatible with the XL models. If I'm in one of these non-XL models, the LoRAs won't show up. And so I added that in, and because I switched to an XL model, I also have to change my canny to the XL version instead of the standard 1.5 version. So now that I have the LoRA in there, my prompt is good. Let's see what that looks like. So here are my results from using the Swiss render LoRA. This LoRA has been trained on a lot of images that actually do have this kind of structure and maybe some fabric or a similar style. So I really like these results. I think I'll try out another LoRA model here. I'll try out the painted architecture model. Generate. So here are the results using that painted LoRA, and they're pretty good. Some of the lighting effects, like down here, it's maybe loses a little bit of realism. Here it gets the depth of the structure kind of confused. And maybe this is just a little bit too extravagant. This is a pretty nice result here. So let's try to take that seed and define that there. And maybe we can increase the denoising strength a little bit up to 0.72. And let's go back in here. I've removed the yellow. I changed it back to white. And let's try this LoRA again now that we've increased the denoising strength and determine what the seed is exactly. Okay, let's see these results. Okay. So with the denoising strength set even higher, I feel like we've lost a little bit of what we were intending to go for, and the structure is kind of disappearing under the curtains. So let's just lower that back. Let's go even lower than we had it before. Let's go to 0.3 and try that. That looks pretty great. I really like that. Okay, yeah. Just slight variations here because we had the denoising strength so low. But that is pretty nice. Okay, so I think that's it for this part of the tutorial. And I think next we'll move on to trying some of these methods with an actual model input instead of a photograph, and see how we can apply these strategies to start some quick rendering and applying materials to different massings that we come up with. So in this last part of the image-to-image tutorial, we're going to focus on how to start applying materials to an Arctic view or a quick view export from a Rhino model or a Revit model, and start to use in-painting to fill in textures and things on the faces of those models. So, excuse me, we're going to start in Photoshop, where I have an object ID mask and in the Arctic view of a model from a recent project. And the object ID mask is optional. The only reason I'm using it is because I want to show you the in-paint anything and segment anything workflows, and this will make that a lot easier. So let's go ahead and we have a multiply overlay on this so that we get a little bit of the color in there, just so that these different objects will segment out nicely, and you'll see what I mean by that in a moment. So I'm going to save this image here and go back into Stable Diffusion. I'm in my image to image tab. And before we get going, I'm going to need to add 2 extensions here. And so the extensions that I'm going to add, I'm going to load from, I'm going to go to the Available tab, load from the GitHub user content page, and I'm going to type in segment. Okay, so I've already installed them once, but you're going to follow this these directions. So you're going to go to the Available tab, you're going to click load from this site, which will be in there by default, and you're going to type in segment, and there will be 2 of these that pop up. Since I already have them installed, they're over here. You'll see in-paint anything and segment anything, and you need both of these to follow along with this workflow. So I already have these. You're going to select them here and hit install on each one of them. They'll maybe take 20 seconds or so. And then after that, you're going to go over to this installed tab. You'll have everything checked, and you'll just click apply and restart UI. And this will also take about 20 seconds. Okay, so now we're back in, and you see we now have an in-paint anything tab here. So I'm including this in the image-to-image workflow, but it's a separate tab. So let's go in here and choose our image that we just saved. And here you'll see you have a drop-down of segment anything models. So all of these models will produce segmented images with various levels of detail. So it might take some experimentation to see what is going to work best for your purposes, but I'm going to use this, just sort of a random selection. In past trials I found it gives a nice balance of detail, so I'm going to select that, and I don't think I have it. I might have it downloaded. If you try to use any of these and you have not downloaded them yet, you'll have to select one and then click download. I already have it, so it tells me model already exists, and then we just click run segment anything, and we'll see it processing on the right side of the screen. Okay, so the segmentation finished up, and now if you can see my cursor, basically this is a smooth transition from the segment to the in-painting, and what I can do is select just one region by clicking in it. So I don't even have to drag. I can just click. But if I want to select multiple regions, I can, drag here. So watch this. I just select the blue, choose create mask, and then I have a mask just of that blue facade right there. Now let's reset that, and let's select both of these because they're on the same elevation. We'll say we want them to be the same material, so we'll create a mask with all 3 of those selected. That looks great. And then let's prompt for a I don't know, what do we think? Aluminum, corrugated aluminum. Siding, corrugated aluminum siding, brushed aluminum, let's just try that. Let's go horizontal orientation. And I've got the Juggernaut XL model selected. I think that will work. There might be a conflict between the XL models and the in-painting. In-painting tool, but let's just try that. Okay, so I left the advanced options at the default, and it looks like it sort of paid off. Okay, interesting. Not a great result right there, but you can see the power of the tool, and how well it might work. Let's try to make this prompt a little bit better. In order to do that, I'm going to take it into DeepSeek. And let's try to improve that prompt a little bit. And let's see if that works. Let's run the inpainting. That's much better. Okay, fantastic. So now what I've done is I've gone back in and rerun the segmentation with this white Arctic image here, and I'm going to start defining the facade materials. So I'm going to select these three. Let's say create a mask. Okay, so we've got that mask, and now let's say aluminum facade, corrugated aluminum siding, silver, vertical orientation, residential architectural facade. Okay. There's our prompt. Let's go into the advanced options and let's leave these at the default and see what we get. And there's our results. This looks pretty good. Let's see, I think if we turn up the iterations here, we'll get more images. Let's turn down the sampling steps. Let's make it 10 so we get faster generations. And we're using the juggernaut checkpoint. Let's keep running. Let's try it again. See if we can get some more variation. Okay, so the iterations did not, as I expected, produce multiple images, so it looks like we just get one at a time when we run this. I've got a little less detail on this now, and it looks to be diagonal striation, so I'm going to turn this back up to 15. Okay, and a second image just popped up. This is good. I like this one. So what I'm going to do, I want to keep filling in these materials. I will download this image. It pops up here, and I can drag it back into I can bring it back into this in-painting region. So I just dragged it back into this area here. My mask is the same. So I'm going to clear out the selections that I had made. And let's choose these regions here. Okay, I know you can't see my mouse super well, but I'm selecting these under geometries. And let's prompt it for a white concrete facade with large windows, soft pink glow emanating from interior of residential building, large windows with soft glass and aluminum mullions. And let's try that. We'll have to create our mask first. So now we've got these regions masked off, we can see, and let's run that in painting. Okay, so it looks like it actually took me back to the original image. So when I want to continue to build upon previous masking layers, I actually have to bring the download into here. That was my mistake. And I have to resegment the image in order to keep building upon materials that I applied in previous steps. So now we can go in and continue to segment this out and apply that glass and concrete to the image that already has the aluminum cladding. I've just got a little gap in the mask there. Okay, so that's coming up as a black area. So let's keep ignoring the black area, and that'll be good enough for a quick iteration. And let's try running that. I still have my same prompt in there. Okay, cool. Now we've got some glass, and so I'll download this, bring this back in here, resegment. And I think the next surface I will apply materials to will be this large horizontal facade space here. And what should we make that? Let's make that like a light gray strip form concrete. Let's try that. So I'm just dragging along the facade and kind of making sure that I get everything. Let's add these pillars, these columns in too. And the mask doesn't seem to be picking up the smaller columns here with the auto segment. So let's just run that. Okay, now let's say we want light gray strip form concrete facade, panelized concrete with visible vertical seams, matte texture, and let's try running that. Okay, so I'm getting some, it's a very like vertical, like striated result here. So let's try a different in-painting model ID. Let's try the runway ML stable diffusion in painting and see if that changes our results at all. Okay, so we've still kind of got the same like vertical striations on this. I think in order to get a little bit more control over the style of the resulting images here, I'm going to switch from the In Paint Anything tab into the Image to Image tab, where we can use in-painting mask uploads to get a little bit more control and achieve the same kind of results, but with a little bit more control over the style of the results. So this is a great tool for quick segmentation and applying textures and changing things in an image. The segmentation tool works really well. And I just wanted to introduce you to that tool so you can figure out how you would like to use it. Okay, so let's go back to the image to image tab here, and we'll go to the in-paint upload section. And what I will do is I'll go get that same RGB image I was just using. And remember, this is in 960 by 540. So let's open up this exact same image in Photoshop. I've already done a few things here. Pull up my Photoshop window. Okay, so I've got this image open in Photoshop, and what I want to do now is start to segment this out, start to define my masking regions. So actually, let's start where we were. We can use that original output that we got with the top volumes, with the aluminum cladding, and I will just draw a mask over this region here. Let's not include the legs this time, the columns this time, and we will take this, save this image as a PNG with a transparent background, save mask 1. Let's fix that. Okay, and while I'm here, I will just segment out the other bits of the image too. So we've got that area covered. Now I want to, let's do these columns. And I'll just do a few of these to show you how this works. I'll get all the columns together in one export because I want them all to be the same materiality. I want them all to follow the same prompt. So column mask. And let's see, what else do we want to do? Let's start doing, let's do this. Let's grab the facade of this house. Just grab that, and we'll make this one the same. Okay, and then I'm just going to erase that part right there where that column is. Just do that and hide the background, and let's save that as facade mask 2. Okay, let's go back to Stable Diffusion and upload our first mask here. We'll go with mask 1. Okay, so I've uploaded that. It's in the same dimensions as this original image. Let's apply a prompt. Let's go with light gray concrete facade, visible panelized concrete facade, visible seams between panels, and strip form texture. Let's add a LoRA to it. Let's try the painted architecture LoRA. We're using the Juggernaut checkpoint, negative prompt, black, dark, gray, dark. We just want a light color. Turn the mask blur down a little bit. And painting masked. Leave this the same. Go to Chorus. Let's go down to 10 so we get quick results. Change this to 960 by 540. Turn my batch size up to 4. CFG scale, let's turn it down to 5. Denoising strength 0.8. That should be good. And I'll leave the control net blank. Let's go ahead and generate. Here are the results that we got from that trial. Interesting, but clearly not what we want. So let's remove that LoRA. Let's try it with this LoRA here and run it again. Okay, so we've got some more results. I like this one. This is good. So let's download this and drag it over here, and now we can update this mask with one of the others that we made. And so let's go with the column mask, and let's make these let's make them concrete columns. Stripform texture. And let's just run that. Okay, so I've got some results here. A little bit strange. You can see how they're not really getting a consistent result. Some of them are getting the perspective all wrong. So let's try to remove that. Remove the LoRA and see if we can improve the results. So we've got some results here. It's looking okay. Let's go in and I'm gonna run one with Architecture Realmix. Okay, I think this is probably our best result yet. So just for the purposes of the video, I'm gonna keep running with this image here. And honestly, this is probably something that we can just fix in Photoshop. It's not, but I'm just gonna continue. See how this leg right here is a little bit, it's like disappearing into this pitched roof. We could fix that in Photoshop, but let's just keep moving, and let's apply something to this facade here. Let's, I don't know, how about white residential facade, wood siding, small glass windows, and remove glass from there. Exterior. Render. And let's move this to architecture exterior, checkpoint. Okay, we've got some really fast results here. Okay, so I think I'm kind of struggling with the prompt here. So let's use our DeepSeek to get an improved prompt. Let's copy that. See if that does anything for us. Okay, so after a few trials, running through different checkpoint models and trying different prompt modifications, I've got a result that I like fairly well here. So I've changed it to a wood facade and used this prompt. I'll put an example of this prompt into the description of the video at the bottom probably, and you can copy this and paste it into GPT, a chatbot, and have it reproduce the prompt just for a different material. So let's have it redo that prompt for aluminum cladding facade, brushed aluminum, horizontal orientation. So it'll take the same level of detail and descriptiveness and type of language in the prompt, but it'll reproduce it for a different material. And then I'll use that to apply to these top bits. Let's go here. And I need to upload a new mask, so I have to create that mask here. Okay. Let's change those both back to normal blend mode. Export with the transparent background. Back into Stable Diffusion and swap that out. Okay. I'll stick with the Architecture Realmix and see if I get something good here. Okay, so this result is not great. I think I'm denoising it a bit too much. So I'm going to lower the denoising strength to 0.8. And because I think these are fading into the white background, I'm going to add a control net here. So upload independent control image. And let's add that basic white image that we were using. Let's make it a canny edge detection. And there we go. So let's try that again. Okay, so I'm still getting a lot of sort of random shapes in here. So let's go in and add a second control net. Let's add the same image, but for our second control net, let's add a depth image here. And it looks like we're still getting wood in here. So let's go back into DeepSeek and make sure this is all aluminum, no wood. So now we have the mask that we've uploaded, and we have two control nets chained together. So this is looking a bit better, but let's go down and say my prompt is more important for each of these. And let's try it again. Still looks a bit strange, so let's try the juggernaut model. Okay, so here's the juggernaut results. Okay, this is looking promising. So I'm going to lower the denoising strength even just a little bit more. Let's go to 0.7 and let's try it again. There we go. These are better. These are a lot better results. Okay. So let's run with this one, and I'll download that, bring it over here, and let's continue to fill out these different areas. So now I want to go in and target these volumes here. So I'll go back into Photoshop. And now I'll bring that image in. And now I'm asking for a similar prompt for glass window, curtain walls with soft pink, light glowing from inside. Let's remove these negative prompts and run that. Okay, got some results. This one is quite nice. I'm just going to try one more with the architecture real mix because that one has a tendency to produce very convincing glass images. Okay, these look pretty good. So let's take this one and keep moving forward with that. So next, let's go in and modify. Let's grab this roof here. Yeah, let's do the roof. But I think this time I'm just going to use the in-painting feature. So grab that image. And just to show you how you can kind of switch back and forth in this workflow and use multiple tabs to keep moving your image forward. So grab this area over here. And I'm just brushing in. Okay. And let's use our aluminum prompt again here. And let's run that. Okay, that looks nice. I like this one. So let's actually bring that back over into the InPaint tab again. Clear it out. You can see we have this version here. And let's start to modify this facade. And so I could be doing this in Photoshop and using the pen tool to draw over these images and then upload that mask. It might be a little bit more accurate, but either way is fine. I'm just showing you different workflows you can use. And let's grab this area back here as well. And so now even because I've switched over to the InPaint tab, I still have both of the chain control nets on here, so they're still influencing the generation. And let's make these, let's just do a really simple, let's make it a light blue. What do we think? White brick facade, exterior wall. Let's try that. Okay, okay, there we go. So we do have a bit of a change here in these from the white image of the last couple. So I think I'll go with this one. And now that we've got most of this building filled out, let's clear our mask here, and we can go in and start populating the background with images. So I'll download this, drag this over here, and we can start to make this scene look a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of the building. I'm going to paint the entire building in. And then I'm going to change what I want to operate on from InPaint masked to InPaint unmasked. So this will allow us to, instead of selecting the whole environment, which could be a little bit more tedious, I can just select the building. And again, we could do this in Photoshop. I'm just showing you the workflow with the manual inpainting. So I'm going to go around these areas of sky here. And this one would probably be a lot quicker to just Photoshop, actually. To Photoshop the mask and upload it. But let's try this. And then we'll go down to InPaint not masked. Let's increase the blur quite a bit so that we get a nice blend in with the surroundings. And then let's just describe this scene. Let's say urban street corner, cars driving in street, close to stop signs, city context, residential and office buildings, industrial, near a park with trees, flowers, overcast afternoon sky, wet pavement, mountains in background. And this should start to populate the entire background of this image and put it into a context. I should probably increase the denoising strength a bit here. Okay, this is looking pretty good. So it's populated the scene with a street corner. There's people on the street corner. It's got a context. There's no mountains in the background. I think that's fine. I think I overdid it a little bit with that prompt there. And the perspective seems pretty much spot on. And I'm just going to try, I've increased the denoising strength to 1. I'm going to lower the CFG scale a little bit and increase the batch size to 6. Just to see what can happen here. I'll crank up the mask blur just to see how that affects things. Okay, great. So increasing the CFG scale really let me blur my background a bit more and get a little bit more detail in the background there. Let's increase the sampling steps to, let's go to 20, and let's try to improve the prompt even just a little bit more. I've just taken it into DeepSeek and just tried to beef it up a little bit. Okay, so we've changed the prompt a bit, and the context has changed a little bit. We can see how the mask blur is showing up here. It's maybe a bit too strong, so let's lower that again. And we're getting a lot more detail in our surroundings, which doesn't exactly match up with the level of detail in our actual building here, because we were running it with such a low sampling step count at 10, and now we've cranked up the surroundings to 20. So it's useful to know, but let's just go back down to 10 so that things are a little bit more consistent. And let's try running it through Juggernaut. And I'll add a LoRA here. And let's try generating that. Okay, so I'm interrupting this because I forgot to switch the canny and control depth to the XL versions. So depth XL and canny XL. Because we're using the Juggernaut XL model, we have to do that. And let's generate. You can see how bad that image was going to be. So that Juggernaut rendering just finished up, and let's check out the results. So we've got pretty good, the perspective is still nice, we're still getting the cars in there. Pretty good sky rendering, but you can see how much that mask blur is kind of making the building glow in certain lights. In certain images it comes out looking a little better because the sky blends it in a little more nicely. So I quite like this image, so I think what I'm going to do is take this one, and then this is something that I haven't done before, but I would really like to try it. So let's try going image to image here and taking that result that we just grabbed, and let's also pull up our GPT and drop an image into there. Just give me a moment. So let's drop that image in here and say, give me a stable diffusion prompt image in high quality render style. And now our parameters looking good. I'm gonna try to produce a really high quality image from this. So I'm gonna increase the sampling steps. And for now, let's leave the control nets on but make sure they have the emphasis of prompt is more important. And we may be turning those off in a moment. So let's see if we got our prompt. Okay, very good. It looks good enough. And I'll leave the perspectival LoRA in there. Denoising strength, I'm going to lower this to 0.4 and see what we get. And here are our results. So we've still got quite a bit of a blur around these edges, but overall I think the image is sort of improved. There's more cohesion between the building and the background. Some of these details are improved a bit. We get more variation of facades. What I'm going to do now is try to increase the denoising strength a little bit to see if we can get rid of some of that edge blur around. So I was at 0.4, I'm going to go up to 0.75 and run this again to see what happens. So here are our results after increasing the denoising strength to 0.75. And we can see we're getting a lot more variation in the facade details and the context. Some of these are pretty cool. So I think what I'll do now is just generate the same image. I'll reduce the denoising strength a little bit, but I'll just go down to 0.6, I think. A nice middle ground, and I'll just apply a few different LoRAs and I'll show you the results at the end. And so one more thing I wanted to show here is the image upscaling feature. So if we go into the extras tab, we have a chance to upload an image here. So I'm going to go into my outputs folder. Actually, I have the image preview pulled up. So I'm going to scroll through to one of my most recent results that I would like to upscale. Let's do this one. So I'll just drag it in there. You can choose an upscaler. My understanding is that at this moment the ESR GAN 4X is the best. I could be wrong on that. And you can, I guess, input a second upscaler. You can do scale by or scale to. So if you want to do 2x, if you understand the original dimensions, or you can scale to. I'm going to run a scale 2, and I'm just going to go to 1920 by 1080, check the crop to fit mark, and hit generate. It only takes a second, and there you have it. There's your new image, and you can save that, and now that's at a 1920 by 1080. So it's twice as big. And here are some of my favorite results from this last workflow.